The moment Marcus dropped to his knees in the sand, his daughter's ice cream cone forgotten and melting beside him, he had no idea he was about to save the life of one of the most powerful women in America. All he saw was someone drowning, and all he knew was that he had to help. His hands were shaking as he tilted her head back, clearing her airway just like he'd learned in that CPR class 5 years ago, the one his late wife had insisted he take when their daughter Emma was born. He'd never imagined he'd actually need it. The woman's lips were blue, her designer swimsuit covered in sand, and a small crowd had gathered in a helpless semicircle around them. Marcus could hear Emma crying somewhere behind him, but he couldn't stop. Not now. He pressed down on the woman's chest, counting compressions, breathing for her when her body wouldn't. "Come on," he whispered desperately. "Come on, please." When she finally coughed up seawater and gasped for air, Marcus nearly collapsed with relief. Her eyes fluttered open, striking green eyes that seemed to look right through him, and for just a moment, the chaotic beach fell silent. "You're okay," he told her softly, brushing wet hair from her face with the gentle touch of someone who'd comforted a frightened child 1,000 times. "You're going to be okay. The ambulance is coming." She tried to speak, but he shook his head. "Don't talk. Just breathe. You're safe now." Marcus didn't wait for thanks. As soon as the paramedics arrived, he gathered a sobbing Emma into his arms, retrieved what was left of her ice cream cone from the sand, and quietly disappeared into the crowd. He had to get home anyway. His shift at the warehouse started in 3 hours, and he still needed to drop Emma at his mother's house. Being a single dad meant there was always somewhere else he needed to be, always another responsibility waiting. Heroes got to ride off into the sunset in movies. In real life, they rode a 10-year-old Honda with a check engine light that wouldn't turn off. That should have been the end of it. A good deed done, a life saved, a moment of courage on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. But Vivian Ashford didn't forget people who saved her life. And she certainly didn't forget the man with gentle hands and kind eyes who had asked for nothing in return. It took her private investigator less than 48 hours to find him. Marcus Chen, 34 years old, widower, father to 6-year-old Emma, working double shifts at a distribution center while taking online classes to finish his nursing degree. The investigator's report was thorough, but it was the photograph that stopped Vivian cold. Marcus and Emma at a park, him pushing her on a swing, both of them laughing like they didn't have a care in the world despite the weight they carried. Vivian had built a tech empire worth $8 billion. She'd negotiated with presidents and outmaneuvered competitors who'd tried to destroy her. But she'd never been good at the simple things, at kindness without agenda, at love without calculation. Her own family barely spoke to her anymore, too resentful of the time she'd given to her company instead of to them. Looking at that photograph, she felt something crack open inside her chest. When Marcus answered the knock on his apartment door 3 days later, he found a woman in an expensive suit holding a gift basket of toys that probably cost more than his monthly rent. It took him a moment to recognize her. She looked so different from the half-drowned woman on the beach, but those green eyes were unmistakable. "I wanted to thank you properly," Vivian said, and there was something almost nervous in her voice, like she wasn't quite sure how to do this. "May I come in?" Emma peeked out from behind Marcus's legs, eyes wide. "Daddy, is that the lady you saved?" "Yes, sweetheart," Marcus said softly, then looked at Vivian with confusion written all over his face. "How did you find me?" "I'm good at finding things," Vivian replied with a small smile. "It's kind of what I do." She held out her hand. "Vivian Ashford. I don't think I properly introduced myself before you saved my life." Marcus's face went pale. Even he knew that name. Ashford Technologies. Forbes covers. The woman who built Silicon Valley's future. "Oh my God," he breathed. "Can we talk?" Vivian asked, and something in her expression made it impossible to say no. Over coffee at his tiny kitchen table, coffee that Marcus apologized for 3 times because it wasn't good enough. Though Vivian insisted it was perfect, she made him an offer that seemed too impossible to be real. A job at her company's headquarters, managing their employee wellness program. Full benefits. Salary that would let him finish school without working nights. A future for Emma that didn't involve her dad falling asleep at her school plays because he'd worked 20 hours straight. "Why?" Marcus asked finally, staring at the contract she'd slid across the table. "You don't know me. Anyone would have done what I did." But they didn't, Vivian said quietly. Everyone else stood around with their phones, recording or just watching. You're the one who acted. You're the one who knew what to do. You're the one who cared. She looked down at her hands, and Marcus realized she was trembling slightly. Do you know what it's like to nearly die and wonder if anyone will genuinely mourn you? Not my shareholders or my board of directors. Actually mourn me as a person. Marcus thought of his wife, of the grief that had nearly drowned him more thoroughly than any ocean could have drowned Vivian. Yeah, he said softly. I know what it's like to lose someone and feel like the world should have stopped but didn't. Something passed between them in that moment, recognition, understanding, the beginning of something neither of them had been looking for. Vivian hadn't come here to fall in love. She'd come to say thank you, to balance a cosmic debt. But watching Marcus carefully read through the contract, asking thoughtful questions about healthcare coverage for Emma, making sure this wasn't charity because he'd never been comfortable taking what he hadn't earned, she felt something shift inside her. Marcus didn't accept the job right away. He asked for time to think, to talk to Emma, to make sure this was right for both of them. But he did accept Vivian's invitation to dinner the following week, just the two of them, so they could talk more about the position. And then somehow dinner became a walk through the city. And the walk became conversations that stretched long past midnight. And those conversations became the foundation of something real. Vivian learned to slow down, to find joy in simple moments, teaching Emma to code, attending Marcus's graduation when he finally earned his nursing degree, building a family from the ashes of their separate loneliness. Marcus learned that success didn't have to mean sacrifice, that accepting help wasn't weakness, that some second chances came disguised as drowning billionaires who needed saving just as badly as anyone else. The day Marcus and Vivian got married, with Emma as their flower girl scattering petals like her life depended on it, the officiant asked if they'd prepared their own vows. Marcus pulled out a crumpled piece of paper, cleared his throat, and said, I didn't save you that day on the beach so you'd give me a job or change my life or fall in love with me. I saved you because it was the right thing to do. But you saved me right back. Vivian, you reminded me that good things can still happen, that the world isn't just loss and struggle, that there's still room for hope. His voice broke. You gave me permission to want more than just survival. You gave us a future. Vivian didn't have notes. She just took his hands and said, you saw me as a person worth saving when I was just a stranger drowning in the ocean. You didn't know who I was or what I could do for you. You just saw someone who needed help, and you helped. That's who you are, Marcus. And loving you has taught me what I should have known all along, that the most valuable thing we have isn't money or power or success. It's each other. It's this. It's choosing every day to be the person who jumps in when someone needs saving. Years later, the Ashford Chen Foundation would provide free CPR training to thousands of people across the country, fund programs for single parents trying to finish their education, and create initiatives that turned everyday heroes into agents of change. But it all started with one moment of selfless courage on a crowded beach, when a single dad with nothing to give gave everything that mattered: his time, his skill, his willingness to see someone else's need as more important than his own comfort. Because that's what love is, really. It's CPR for drowning souls. It's breathing life into someone when they can't breathe for themselves. It's pressing on someone's heart until it remembers how to beat. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, they wake up and spend the rest of their life teaching your heart how to beat stronger too.